No, we can't go live because the episode hasn't aired yet.
Oh, no.
I mean, we could, but nobody would like it.
No.
Everybody would like it.
Very bad.
But except for a few people who'd be like, hey, this episode didn't air and I'm poor.
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes beyond, but including, the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by...
This girl, CosmoMom09.
And Bridget. You can find me at youtube.com/@PunkyBrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
And we're here to talk to you about the return of The Walking Dead Dead City. Its second season, its sophomore, if you will, season to premiere, titled Power Equals Power. In case you missed it, we did live stream our coverage, and we are live streaming our coverage of The Last of Us. And in the last episode, the third episode of the season, we discussed my visit with Thomas to Rooftop Films' early premiere of The Walking Dead Dead City, which included a bunch of photos and some tales. And I urge you, if you haven't checked that out, to head back to that episode. We had a raucous discussion, and we will not be including it here. I would urge you watching the live stream. We did release the subsequent episode on all podcast platforms, including Spotify video. So head on over there and check that out. Other than that, I hear, Bridget, you had some things to talk about the way in which AMC decided to promote The Walking Dead Dead City with all its wonderful, interesting things that they did around New York City.
Unusual choices. This is the second year in a row that they've done this. Those of you that were in the know, I guess, for last year, I do not live in New York City, but I did definitely bother Dave about this because I would like to get the free merchandise that's being given out. Last year in New York, they set up kind of like little pop-up shops, annoyingly far from one another, so that you had to basically not be working that day if you wanted to hit all of them. There was like a pizza shop that they went to where like walkers were there to serve you your pizza.
I would not eat it.
This was like combined with Verizon Wireless also. So there was like a Verizon store pop-up thing, a bagel shop, I feel like. They gave out a tote bag. This is the one that came out last year. It says, "Welcome to Dead City," with, honestly, he looks more like a creep show ghoul than anything else, with a walker and then the Dead City logo on the other side.
With AMC Plus.
I think I want one of those.
And then I also got this keychain. It's a apple with a zombie face in it, and then it's got the Walking Dead Dead City logo on the back of it.
Yeah, bitten apple.
Because it was like warm out, I assume, at the time. The bottle that's got the fan on the top so that you can put water in it. It's like a spritzer. They give out those at Verizon, as well as a belt bag. Some might call it a fanny pack. That says Dead City on it. This year, the walkers did some different things. It's viral marketing. It's kind of cool. People stumble upon it and they're like, what is happening? And that's how they find out about your show. And that's fun. Walkers were on the street giving out fake copies of the New York Post. Like, it's a real paper, but it's like fake articles.
I think the New York Post did provide the print.
I believe so. Yeah. They had like fake zombie related articles and they were giving those out.
That's cool.
They also went to the Empire State Building.
That's right.
With Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He was there.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, he was.
They were all there. There's a photo of them on the observation deck.
The walkers were also at the Mets game, which was an interesting choice. Now, this was kind of hand-in-hand promotion with TWDshop.com because their merchandise has this logo. That was a good cross promotional. If you went to the Mets game, the first whoever got a free rally towel, which I just so happened to have procured. Your girl loves free stuff, and I will pay for the free stuff that I know I rightfully should have received.
It's a skull that looks like a baseball with the baseball stitches. It's kind of like a skull and crossbones, but instead of the crossbones, it's two Lucille's. And there's a Walkers, as if it's the team name. Walkers is emblazed at the bottom with the Dead City logo in small just above it. Thank you,
I just
Bridget.
so happened to have been on TWDshop.com last night, just for funsies. I was just looking. I was like, man, I haven't looked at that website in a long time. I wonder what they got for a merch drop for Dead City. And also, I wonder what they have on sale because I like to peruse the sales. And also, what does the website even look like? Because they got rid of Supply Drop and I used to buy that. And also, they used to have a rewards program and that's now gone. So I went to look and I was looking at the sale and they have some very deep discounts on items.
Closeouts, basically?
Yes, I'm talking like hats for $2.
Oh.
And so I'm like frantically filling my cart with like a million things.
The
'cause
coupon
I'm
queen.
gonna give these things away. Except I won't because the shipping was insane. I put like 18 items in my cart and the shipping was $70 to $90.
What?
And I was like, that can't be right. So for instance, I was getting like 10 hats because I was like, they're $2 a piece. I'm going to get 10 of these. I'm going to give them away to like everybody.
Yeah, they collapse into themselves.
Those hats would have cost me like $20 in just shipping alone. So I'm not sure where they're shipping from. You can find some good deals, but just be wary of the shipping costs would be my recommendation. I took a ton of stuff out of the cart. I'm only receiving like a couple items now. The total cost of my items is still the price I'm paying for shipping. So it was like $20 and $20. I'm paying as much in shipping as I was for the items, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Anyway, this logo, this baseball with the two Lucille's is also the logo for a baseball cap, I believe, but they also have a baseball jersey, which is quite cute, honestly. I don't like the fit of them ever because, you know, I'm fat and they're not for fats. So if you're not a fat, it might be worth it.
I mean, if you can get in a 4XL or something, I don't know. Like oversize that cutie girl
It just
thing.
doesn't
I don't
like,
know.
it doesn't sit right ever.
It's a bit boxy
Yeah.
and not in the right places.
No,
Even
in
though it's
all
a
the
straight
wrong
line.
places.
Well, the one thing that you missed in the game was that Lauren Cohan and Jeffrey Dean Morgan did throw the first pitch. There were all these
Cute. That's so
promotional photos
fun.
too.
Who threw the first pitch? Because they can't both throw the first pitch.
Well, they were both at the mound and there were two catchers.
Oh, they both threw?
They didn't throw at the same time.
Well, who really threw first then, Dave?
Yeah.
The chicken or the egg?
The chick or the Eggman? I don't remember exactly. I think it might have been Jeffrey Dean
No,
Morgan.
that's cute. That's a cute
Yeah.
promotion. This is fun marketing to me.
Yeah.
Like when companies come
Double
up with
down,
this kind of
baby.
marketing, I'm like, who are your marketing people? Because this is what you should be doing for all of your shows. This is so fun.
Now that I can talk about it, we made a lot of comments while we were watching the premiere. And since I watched it twice, I did watch it at the Paley Center. And the end result of that, by the way, is I had a seat to watch the thing and I recorded it on my voice recorder. And maybe we'll do something with that down the road. I don't know how far down the road. And I don't know if I'll ever get to do it because we're just in hell right now because of this 2 episodes back-to-back thing. And
Yeah, Dave.
But
yeah.
one of the biggest comments that I kept saying to my seatmate in the first night, Zafira, and we've been in good contact since then because she needs
fun.
a TWD buddy, and we happen to be a
Oh.
podcast connected to a bunch of buddies.
I
So
love that. This was your friend from the line?
no, now that's Camilla,
Okay.
but she's a different
Okay.
person whom, well, I should have gotten a photo with her, but who knows?
Well, you're just making friends left and right, Dave.
Yeah, Thomas may have a photo with all of us. She dressed up as Negan at the Paley Fest thing.
Cute.
One of the things I kept elbowing her as we were watching was like, Boston, because a lot of it was filmed in Boston. And it kind of ticked us off because we're New Yorkers. We have a lot of pride. One of the things I kept saying was, we want to get the feel for New York. And I kept going, Boston. You mean Boston, right? And I'm upset about that. Make it a real thing. The thing that I can point to on the show with maps. Remember maps on Fear the Walking Dead maps, which I have a little bit of for this episode.
Well, it costs a lot to film in New York. And then, Dave, you New Yorkers like to go fast, and then you're going to be mad because there's people stopping you from doing what you want to do because they blocked off our whole road.
I'm going to pull a Seth right now. Are you a baby? Are you a baby? You going to cry? I'm walking here.
Just saying.
Anyway, I will say also, though, it looks like the Radio City thing when they first of all, they reused the shot, but from the beginning of this episode to the end, when they light up Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah.
I really want to know, but it does look like a miniature.
Something looks slightly off about it, so that makes sense.
Yeah, they use maybe like a tilt shift lens or filming. It kind of looks
but
like
it's
that.
cool. It looks cool. I thought
No,
I liked
definitely
it.
cool.
Yeah, I liked it.
And I actually will get into why I think that, because there's 2 different reasons. One, which we just mentioned, it is a miniature, but there's another reason, which we'll get maybe to the end. The title of the episode is Power Equals Power. And as usual, how does the title relate to this episode? You think it's simple, but it's not as simple as you think, Rachel, whom we always are going to be starting off with first. Get the choo-choo train running.
Negan said it best. Power, electricity, what they have equals power. You need electricity and stuff. Actually, I'm going to start with Sharondy's comment. So she's been trying like heck to get on here, but it's not working. So she's going to give up. She says, but I want to mention them turning the lights back on. It was a cool visual, but there's one problem. In Stephen King's The Stand, when the people in Boulder finally get the electricity going, the system overloads and causes the system to go down again because all those people who died and didn't turn off their TV, the blender, lights, blah, 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 before it happened. So when the power comes back on, everything that was left on will still be on and it will overload the system. And since no one seems to be monitoring it, possibly burn down the city.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. There's a series of novels that I talked about a lot, like a year ago, the Going Home novels. And one of the jobs that they have in their neighborhood, like they tell each community this as they're working on getting the power up. There's like some army engineers who are working on getting the power grid up. And as they're working through, they stop by the neighborhoods and they tell them, if you don't live in that house, turn off everything, disconnect it completely. So they'll go back to like the power meter, disconnect everything, like just shut it all off so it won't even connect. So that doesn't happen, so that they don't overpower the grid.
Makes a lot
and
of
it's
sense.
honestly, it's not something I would think about before reading that and knowing that. Yeah, it is something that would cause a problem, just in terms of maintenance alone.
I do have a response to this. You'll
David?
notice that when the power does go on, it's just the immediate vicinity. It seems like the Croat is super smart because he knows this too. And he's just using this as a demonstration to illustrate what they're capable of. So he doesn't immediately turn on the full grid. And there's a mention of this. Benjamin Pierce of the New Babylon Federation, the nerd with the notebook, talking about history, mentions that the power lines are underneath the city because of the 1888 blizzard. The blizzard basically tore down all the electric lines. In New York City did have a lot of overground cable cars system. Even Brooklyn had a few in the warehouse district too. After that, they tore it all down. Of course, with the advent of automobiles, a handful of decades later, fuel is the way. There's a little bit of historical symmetry here. You know, we're using fuel, and so let's use gas. Cars are seen culturally as this weird ultimate freedom thing that the oil companies grasped onto culturally and made it a thing. Going back to the grid, the Croat must have, in his Barazzi, must have gone building by building and shut down the main power to each building. And that's also a means of power. I will selectively turn on these buildings or whatnot accordingly. You know, if you play ball, you other brutal, savage tribes of New York City, if you play ball, you get to have these things because we will provide it.
Which makes sense. You wouldn't want to give this free power because it's not free to you, right? You're utilizing your resources to send people out to gather the walkers to then work this highbrow level of science that they've got going on here. Was very Breaking Bad in that lab too. You're using all of your resources to power your area, so you don't want to just like give it away willingly.
Right. Well, and then the whole power grid thing, right? If everything turns on all at once, you could overload the grid.
Yeah.
Whatever grid you have left. Okay, keep going with the power equals power thing because I thought maybe you guys have something else.
Charity does. Game of Thrones covered that when Cersei had the conversation about power with Baelish. She says, power resides where people think it resides.
Something I repeated a lot when we were talking about House of the Dragon. I said, people have more power than they think, especially when you're talking about how they were holding women down and women don't have their agency. And I was like, well, some of them are taking it for themselves.
Yeah.
Power resides where people think it does. And even those who are heir to the throne, it's not guaranteed. You have to make your presence known. And there's a lot of that going on here too. A lot of carrots and sticks throughout this entire episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go through them now? Because the first thing you see is New Babylon Federation, Armstrong, actually, Colonel, sorry, use the title. Colonel Armstrong, it's Colonel to you. Makes his pitch. He says, this is a good thing. Let's take over Manhattan. Let's bring things back because progress is one of those trains that once it gets started, it just has to keep going. And he says part of progress and humanity coming back is taking Manhattan, according to him.
Like the Muppets.
We're the crowd at the bricks going, it's crazy. And then Narvaez comes with the stick and hangs a deserter because they're going to conscript all the folks from the bricks. There's the stick, and there's more carrots and sticks because we'll go to the Negan one. That's the most obvious one. When he enters the church, he signals to the Croat, no, I don't want to use Lucille. And then he goes on, does this pitch, and you kind of think it's going to work because even Bruegel over there is like very smiling. He's like, look at this guy. I love this. It's like, I got a show and I got an after show. And then he walks on, he sells his pitch. He does the Negan things that we all kind of love. I got in here and I already hate all of your guts. Basically, there's all of that going on. And then it looks like it's about to work until Christos, who is the single voice as compared to the Bricks voices, it goes, Kumbaya, my love. And then he kind of walks and he's like, this isn't working. You got to go back to the old ways. It picks up Lucille. That's the literal stick with a zapper. It's a little
was interesting.
shocky barbed wire.
I didn't know what happened at first.
Yeah, I was like, is that a gun?
Well, he was like turning it over and like I saw the button and I was like, oh, that's a weird carving. I didn't even recognize it as a button at first. And then he's like pointing it in his face and all of a sudden it like shocks or like something shoots out of the end. And I'm like, did he just shoot him in the face? Like it happened so fast. I wasn't even sure what happened until they said it was a shock, right? It was an electric shock.
Yeah, because they're carrying him out afterwards.
And I'm like, okay, if you say so.
You saw the little birdies going around his head?
Yeah.
Like a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, AMC's jumping the shark here. The birdie with the little birdies and stars going around his head. The episode or insider actually explains it a little bit more. It's a big iron bar down the center. You obviously saw the button, which you didn't recognize it was a button.
Right.
So the iron bar is basically electrified and it attaches to the barbed wire. And so when the barbed wire is electrified, Christos basically gets blasted back. Basically, it's a big old elaborate taser is what it is.
Okay.
So when he was holding the bat, the brunt of the electrocution was his hand, although it looked like some sparks kind of flew. This was an experiment gone horribly great.
I wanted to mention that when the Croat gives Negan Lucille, there's a comment that he makes that's very pointed, and I feel like it is a pointed comment at the audience. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but it's kind of to the effect that like we change and grow as time goes on. We kind of can become different people. But what the audience really wants is for you to go to your old classics.
This is the Croat says this in the
old
confession
hits,
booth.
and he like hits the side of the booth.
Classic.
A performer wants to try on new material.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you want to do different things. You become like a different person.
Progress.
And I feel like that's what this was him saying like, hey, audience, you're vocalizing discontent with the level of progress that you're seeing in Negan. And you really just want him to go back to being regular old Negan with Lucille. Here it is. Are you happy now? It just seemed very like pointed at the audience. Like, all right, we'll give you what you wanted. You wanted Lucille back. She's back.
I don't think Negan's happy about it though.
No, which goes to show that the progress is still happening, but it's almost like, fine, we'll give you what you want, but not in the way that you wanted 100%.
We'll give you what you want, but you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
You're going to see it and it's not going to be, isn't it like anything? It's not going to be like it once was, that lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, it's not going to be. And that should be fine. Because if you just wanted to watch the same thing over and over and over again, then you could just go back and rewatch The Walking Dead like we all do.
Well, even if you go back and rewatch it again, though,
a million times.
Not the same as when you first saw it.
Correct.
I guess you just had to be there.
There are constantly memes about long-standing TV shows that people really love. It's a meme where a doctor will be like, I'm so sorry, but you've lost all of your memory. And then like they're like, sorry. And then they like go back to watching their favorite TV show because they get to watch it again for the first time.
With the big eyes.
It's dumb, but it's honestly how we all feel about like our absolute favorite show.
Even the way Pierce talks about the avenues were as big as prairies and how New York was so great. Armstrong even says something to the effect of the hub of music, culture, food. There's a lot of bringing back the way things were versus how things are now. And I'm just going to say this as a comment. I want you guys to riff off it. But part of the reason why we like The Walking Dead is because, first of all, it's a means for you to be the person you were meant to be. And our little sort of zombie lust, wanderlust, situation that where, oh, I just want to schedule and I don't want to do the things at the work and buy the things to have the life and the things. And I wish I could just walk away from it all. Enter zombie apocalypse, right, Bridget? And I don't know if this is designed or engineered this way, but I feel like, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the way they're presenting these two general factions is that you're meant to sympathize with the dirtbags in Manhattan and not have any sympathy for what we would normally be on the side of, these Commonwealth, Alexandria, but New Babylon Federation is the thing.
I feel for the dirtbags. They just want to be crust punks or whatever's happening here. Just let them do it. Just let them have their dirty ways. Who cares? They're happy with it.
We like it that way, bitch.
Yeah, that line got me. I was like, I'm dead. Who are you? Who is this diva? That's all I wanted to know.
Next time you're here, we'll go to a comedy show. You'll see a bunch of them and they'll get kicked out for being hecklers.
I loved it. Part of it is New Babylon is so unlikable. One, we have very little character development for them, so that makes them naturally the ones that we don't want to side with. Just like we didn't want to side with the Saviors. Not that we would have. We just didn't know a lot about them, and what we did know was bad. So same thing for New Babylon, right? What we do know about them is bad. We don't know anything good about them, so we don't feel for them. We don't really know any of the other people involved, so we don't really care what happens to them. But also they're going around, there's conscription. They've brought back conscription. Which
Dirty
is
word.
So it's like this idea of drafting people without their consent, and then if they don't agree, they're to be put to death in, might I add, a horrific way, because public hanging was a thing. Like, I understand this, like, back to the 1800s mentality, because you don't have power again, so I get it. And you do have to have consequences for people's actions. I also understand that. But a public hanging happened with a scaffold so that hopefully their neck broke right away, and so that way they weren't just being choked. Okay, it didn't always go that way, but sometimes it did. They just lift this guy up off the ground with a rope, which was horrible. And so you're like, okay, these people are bad. And also now they're coming to take people and to show you, if you don't come with us, you'll die. We'll do this. So they're so unlikable that you're like, I don't really want them to win. Maggie is with them, but she's reluctantly with them. So there's no buy-in on our end. Like, even though we really love Maggie, I mean, some of us do, some of us don't. I do. I like Maggie. Even though you might like her because she's reluctant to join them, I don't have any skin in that game.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're saying a lot of things in regards to, hey, I don't like the New Babylon Federation. But even if you look at the dirtbags, rough as they look, as whatever they're doing is what they're doing.
I'm sorry. Well, that diva delivered that line and I was sold. That's all it took.
Fell in love instantly.
Plus, they've got Kim. Just looking at your faces, you're more likable to me.
You mean Kim Coates?
Yes.
You may feel differently about that as the season goes. That's kind of the point, is that immediately you're endeared to the Manhattan contingent because it's their way of life. It's ultimate libertarian freedom that we do whatever we want. We can group up if we want to or not, whatever. There's nobody's going to be hung over this. Christos does. In addition, Christos doesn't die. He just shocks him. He's carted off, but he's still kind of up and around by the time they leave. So there's that. So there's a lot of smart boarding of these scenes to immediately endear you. And then, of course, later on down the season, you're going to be like, well, maybe this isn't as clear cut as we think. I think they're going to put us in a place where we may not like anybody. And that's the truth. We probably already don't like NBF, the New Babylon Federation. Who do we side with? And then I think the guns are going to start pointing towards Maggie and Negan. At the end of the day, they're going to team up and whatnot.
I side with Herschel.
Well.
Oh, bold choice, actually.
Bold choice. Because why do you say that?
Because it's Glenn's kid.
I thought there was something special about him.
He is special. He's Glenn's son.
That's it?
Yep. That's all I need.
There's some darkness, I think, that we're supposed to gather. Something's going on with this kid. Something happened to him. Something changed him fundamentally when he was in Manhattan.
Yeah, it's never more clear than when you see him at the table looking over the drawings and then immediately goes to the Dama stroking her rat in a maze. And you know that's a visual representation of Herschel.
Yeah. He agreed with something that was said.
What I could kind of get behind was when he's talking to the reporter. I guess he's like a
Benjamin Pierce, you mean?
a cataloger
He's a
or an
historian.
archivist.
A
An
historian,
archivist,
that's the
I
word I'm
guess,
looking for, yeah.
Records
of types.
keeper.
Yeah. Which, by the way, if you recognize that kid,
Keir Gilchrist, yep.
he is most notably the star of Atypical, which I know is how a lot of people recognized him.
Right.
So he shows a wide range. He's a great actor. I was surprised to see him. I'm sure they had mentioned it, but I try to avoid that stuff so that I don't know who's in what. But because I knew that Dasha was going to be in it, but I want to know, but I also don't want to know. When Herschel is talking to the historian, he draws the little picture, but as he's talking about it, there's kind of like this light in his eye as he talks about how the bridge fell, but it was twisted and made into something better. There's kind of this idea that Herschel is not from our time. He's not from before the fall. He truly is from within the fall. And so he can see how the fall has maybe bettered things because he doesn't know what was there before.
Well, even Pierce is probably just a baby when everything fell.
Yeah.
He's not that much older than Herschel.
But there is something too. This whole episode goes back and forth between progress versus the way things were.
Correct.
Do we bring it back or do we twist it and make something new? And it's never more cool, this visual representation of, by the way, a friendly and endearing conversation. They're both excited about what the other kind of things, even though Herschel does say that's BS. There's no enmity. There's no fighting about it. They kind of talk about it, and then he shows
he
him.
was genuinely interested.
Yeah, and
in what Herschel had
Pierce
to say,
is interested in his point of view.
He was so excited to
liked that.
receive the information, get the drawing. He really wanted to have that cataloged.
Is there a Chekhov's gum? Chekhov was chewing this gum in the first scene, and it came back to bite. Is this a sort of Chekhov's gun? Because it shows you the way things could be. Well, is this the way things might end up? With two factions actually talking to each other and convincing each other using persuasion rather than carrots and sticks?
That would be nice to see. And isn't that ultimately progress?
The right kind.
Maybe this like psychologically has us side with one side over the other. You know, you see Manhattan and it's got the bright lights. So maybe this has to do with like color psychology because you're getting like the bright lights of Radio City Music Hall. You're getting like these bright neons and it's very vibrant. And then it goes back to the bricks, and the bricks is
dull,
miserable.
The people there look beaten down. They're mostly old people.
What was up with their crops? Like, are they going through a drought?
I can explain that, but yeah.
When New Babylon comes in and they're like, I'd say we're living, I guffawed. So I was like, are you? This looks like a prison camp. What is this? It's horrible.
It's funny because we used to call our dorm, I think, the bricks or the cinder blocks, because it looked just as miserable. Even though we're kids, what do we know? We have meal plans on a card.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are we complaining about? It's the cost of progress or whatnot. But then it's also like, well, is this Soviet Russia, right?
It was so bad. I was like, what's happening with their crops? What is going on?
So I can explain all that. That's easy because she saw what is undoubtedly happening with New Babylon Federation as a whole. And that is, you see the moth a couple of times in this episode, and she deduces from that, because it's the same thing they're going through. You can see it as they come back to town. They're picking up the crops. They're all rotten because the moths themselves are laying eggs within the crops so that the larvae can eat off of them. So they're going through exactly what New Babylon Federation is going through on a whole. And if it's corn is what they use to make the ethanol. So, of course, their fuel reserves are going down. It was explained, but
that makes sense. It's okay. Make your audience work for it sometimes.
Armstrong says it in the episode because it's the exact reason why Maggie figured out. This is more of a question. How about this? There is an excuse to go to Manhattan for the fuel. We get the reasoning to go to Manhattan at the end of the last season, from whom we finally learn the governor of New Babylon Federation's name, Charlie Bird. We called her Smokey because she didn't have a name, because she's obsessed with cigars and the way they make cigars and the humidity and the wrapping it tight. Who cares, Charlie Bird? Who cares? We hate you already. It's fine. To Bridget's point, they're not very likable.
They really aren't. They really, really aren't.
So much so that I almost forgot what I was about to talk about. But the excuse now is they're making the excuse. I wonder. I feel like the fact that their fuel reserves are going low gives them more of a reason to go sooner than they probably would have otherwise? Or did they do it to themselves? Did they release, or did they guide the moths themselves and release could this be planned engineering to force people into going on this exploratory quest to Manhattan? I wonder, because they were going to do it anyway. Did somebody push it?
By willingly participating in conscription, which if you don't, you die. So there's not really much of a willingness there. Do they help to provide your people food? Because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. If that's an agreement, if that's part of the agreement, then yes. But if not, then they didn't have to do that because the people are going to agree because it's written into their rules, and they force their hand by already eliminating their trading partners.
Code 52 Section 8, baby.
Which,
sorry.
It's really bothersome to me to know that this group is out there and that they've separated everyone from making trades, which again, we saw this in The Walking Dead proper with the Saviors. They made it near impossible for our survivors group in Alexandria to trade with the kingdom. They made it impossible for them to do the inner trading that they were already doing in order to break them apart so that they couldn't form a union against them. They tried to make it as hard as possible. So we've seen that already.
Right. If they're taking already half your stuff,
yes,
the Saviors.
Correct. Then you don't have anything to trade.
Right. There's nothing left over for you. So
it's interesting that this is a repeat of that. Also, did this pop into anyone's head? Because this is all I could think about this episode. I'm seeing Maggie, they're hunting deer. Then she walks to this miserable looking place. And I'm like, why is this where you are? What happened? Where is the Commonwealth? Where is Alexandria? It's driving me crazy. Where are your people? You're big mad a lot, Maggie.
Big mad? Is that a thing? Big mad? Okay.
Yeah. This is how it was when you encountered the Reapers.
Maggie has a hero complex. She sees a group of people that need her.
I think she has a villain complex. I feel like she's the villain in her own story.
She is a villain, but she has a hero complex because she thinks everyone needs her. She can't just leave these people. They need her.
It's like a form of self-sabotage.
I think it's penance, honestly. That's why I think it's more of a villain complex. There's a lot of reasoning behind this. This season, I feel like, is going through the concerted effort of bringing back season 9 vibes, along with the fact that this feels like how maybe the Saviors couldn't survive. Do you remember that they were having crop issues at the beginning of season 9?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And eventually you find out later, after the 6-year time jump, Negan goes back and it turns out this whole place went to crap, this sanctuary. That's how the season starts. It opens up with the Scarecrow Walker still tied up to the X on the front to kind of, because the crows kept picking at him and crops wouldn't grow and the soil. Yeah. So in addition to this, what was the reason why Maggie left?
To go with Georgie?
So to speak.
Yeah. Okay.
She eventually gets
when
to
did
Georgie.
She do that?
Because Georgie doesn't pick her up. She just leaves and she finds Georgie. Okay, but what was the impetus? What led up to that moment?
Well, she couldn't be anywhere near Negan.
And why?
Because she wanted to kill him.
Right. And they didn't let her.
And everyone around her,
was against her in a way.
Him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, 2 things happened. 1, she was there to witness Rick die, quote unquote, on the bridge. 2, she had to leave. Okay. 2 is coming back and realizing that the reason why everybody was able to survive 2 times was because Negan was there for them and she wasn't. This is why I'm saying I think they're actually going to backtrack by way of this story, not only her feelings on leaving, which is, I think, a lot of people want. People want to know, why did you leave, Maggie?
Okay, that's interesting that you say that, Dave. I forget that she left and there was a lot of drama surrounding that, but she was gone for so long. In the real world
and in the story.
She was gone for so long, she didn't come back until season 11 or very end of 10?
10. Very end of 10.
Very end of 10.
With
Elijah, who we thought was going to be somebody different because he was masked, but
not Morgan Jones.
Faked you out.
Definitely wasn't Morgan Jones.
It was definitely giving Morgan Jones, but it would have been weird if they had brought him back again.
I'm back and I have a new mask.
It's like, what? Why? Okay, so that makes sense if we're retreading that, because her character made progress in season 11, and then they had that really nice moment in the finale where we're like, okay, everybody's growing. She is totally right. He should leave. I understand, but he gets to leave and still live.
Right. And she
we
gets
got to have
leave
that.
too.
Yeah. I'm just surprised by it, but this life seems miserable. Why don't you just go back to your people? But also, where are your people? Are they even okay? Because there's been another time jump in this.
Yeah, I'll get to that
So
in
we
just
don't even
a second.
know.
There's another bit of evidence here, and that is when she talks about the story of the not fireflies, but I thought it was an interesting nod to The Last of Us because it's overlapping.
Oh, yes.
The signal that she has on the flashlight, and she tells us effectively the story because Herschel knows the story. Why is she telling it again? She's telling it for us.
Exposition.
But we need to know about that. And I think that's another bit of reasoning. I think we need to know more about what happened to them on the road because it could be very, very useful in describing the relationship between she and Herschel. Because for a long time, all they had was each other. Even in the bonus episodes to season 10, where we first see him, I think we see him in The Walking Dead, episode 16, I think we saw. But we really get an eyeful of him with the trees on the tree, and it's like, over here, Mom, up here. That whole thing. And obviously they've been together for a long time. She was with the wardens, all the people who end up dying in season 11. The big dude and what's his name? The other guy. Those people.
What's his name? The other guy.
The one that was hung upside down. And
There's
Cole
like
and
Frost.
Duncan and
Frost and Duncan.
Frost, Cole, Duncan.
We get the sense when we first meet Herschel that they have a very, very, very close relationship because, again, they're all they had of each other for the longest time. And then Negan comes into the picture in Dead City. And he's about 15 or 16. I hate to say it because here's the thing. He said another time jump. I hate this. Even Scott Gimple says in the Q&A during the Rooftop Films event, he says, time, what is time? Time is nebulous on this series. We realized that we kind of made it a little difficult to keep track of time. But according to the new Babylon Federation sign outside the bricks, it's 17 PDI. What do you think PDI stands for? Established 17 PDI.
Post.
Yeah, I was going to say post something. Post dead.
Deadly infection.
Yeah, I was going to say post dead infection.
Guess.
Yeah.
Deadly infection.
Post dead infected. Post dead infection. Yeah, whatever.
I was going to say dead insurrection, which doesn't really make all that much sense.
Post dead inside.
There you go. Post dead inside.
No,
people dead inside.
Yeah, there you go. 17 people dead inside. That's the one.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're meant to understand from this is that we're 17 years in the apocalypse. And Herschel was born roughly 2 years in. So Herschel should be roughly around 15, maybe even 16. That's what we're meant to understand. There's other things that we learned from the sign as well. Contrary to our research from last season, what research we could get from the crumbs they gave us about where the bricks was. The sign also tells us exactly where the bricks are, generally speaking. What?
Wow, what? Okay.
It zeroes in way more than we thought it was originally. We were thinking it was somewhere in Virginia, whatnot. And it kind of makes sense where it is currently. It's the Blue Ridge region, which is basically the Blue Ridge Mountains in the Adirondacks of New York State.
It's in New York State.
It's in New York State. Oh. That's right.
Okay, this makes a little more sense. Okay.
Yeah.
The travel makes more sense now.
Travel makes way more sense. Also, it makes more sense because they are completely disconnected from the people we know and love in all the different places that the Commonwealth is. But then again, going back to the time jump, we're 17 years in, as opposed to, I think, what we generally placed even 12-ish years in The Ones Who Live. So we've got that because The Ones Who Live starts off with her from the Whisperer War in year 10 or 11. There's that year that she was recovering from the gas attack, and the 12-ish years we kind of surmised in the Gabriel scenes with Jadis. In The Ones Who Live, we got, even though they were wrong, they did it wrong, they said it wrong. It's fine. Well,
they took back the 1 year later from the finale, because they messed up. The timeline got jacked up, so then they took it back. Because why can't stuff happen concurrently? It could.
It could, but I think the reason for Dead City being further ahead is because maybe something might end up being revealed about why this is all happening a little bit further into time. Consider the fact that the Commonwealth still exists by the end of The Ones Who Live. Consider the fact that Rick Grimes and Michonne and the kids, they're out there somewhere.
They're reunited, yeah.
Yeah, and it's 5 or so years, well, 4 or 5 years later. It does, right? With the bat and Negan and also Rick and the kids. It's great, isn't it? But it might not be that great. I'm going to leave it there.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
You know where my head's going, and I don't know. Because if she's just the governor, is there a figure above Governor Charlie Bird? Which is interesting if we're bringing back season 9 vibes, if you think about it. Because who was the one who stepped in before Maggie could get at Negan in season 9? But Michonne. It's a redux. Could be. We don't know. I feel like if they do go in this direction, though, it could be pretty interesting.
Electric Boogaloo.
Let's move. Okay, last carrot and stick.
Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah. But I didn't say that.
Redux. It means the second.
Yeah, Michonne and Maggie too, Electric Boogaloo. That's how you would do it. But you just said it.
I didn't want to. Let the audience work for it, Dave. But now you explained it.
Not our audience.
But if you explained it.
Here's the last carrot and stick. Negan's rolling up with the Barazzi at the theater where the Dama is, and they have that Croat and Dama kind of trade good cop, bad cop, trying to convince Negan one last time a year later, because it is a year later from the time they did the prisoner exchange between Herschel and Negan. And she says, same story, same thing I said a couple months back. I'm not going to help you with whatever it is, because it's nebulous what she actually wants. Croat in the cage in his cell says, what about the boy? And he goes, he's safe. I'm not helping you. Does the Dama want the boy? Herschel? Why? Is it because he's like a pet? Do you have any thoughts or theories about the relationship?
It gives me the ick.
It does give me the ick. Who's this lady? Rach, do you have any thoughts? Maybe she heard that it's Glenn's kid and she's like, I want that kid.
I want that kid.
Because it's Glenn's kid.
I hadn't thought too hard about it. Not beyond the way Herschel was looking at his drawings at the end made me think, because he wasn't looking at them fearfully, right? It was more like reminiscing.
Like fascination, right?
Yeah, like something interesting or fascinating or longing. Yeah, the way he was looking at and his reaction to Maggie questioning him, like, who's this girl? And she's like, who's this girl? Is she your new mama? And he's like,
remember when he was really angry a second ago, and then he kind of softened.
Yeah. That tells me that something happened between the two of them, that the Dama was...
That he's cheating on his own mother. That's what it felt like. Isn't that kind of how it went down with their argument?
That's a really disgusting way to describe it. But
it's the most accurate way you can describe that behavior. Is she your mother now? That kind of thing?
Something happened, and I don't mean in a disgusting way. I mean in like a loving way. Like something happened between the Dama and Herschel where he misses her for some reason. And I don't know why. Now, from the Dama's point of view, maybe Herschel reminds her of someone she lost, and she's trying to replace that person in her life that she lost with Herschel.
That's a good theory, Rachel.
Well, especially if she was an actor in the theater, maybe there's a story there, maybe.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a relative, like a child or a grandchild, or I don't know.
This is a long time ago.
Maybe, yeah.
17 years ago, she would have been what? She could have been.
My aunt was a grandma at 38. So nothing's off the table here. But sure, maybe it was a partner in the theater. Maybe it was a co-star that she misses. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to even theorize about who it could be. I just think he reminds her of someone that she's trying to replace. And they had a moment. There was something between the two of them, a trust, a bond of some kind that he was not threatened by. Like I said, it doesn't seem like he's scared of her in any way. He was looking at those pictures and reminiscing.
Yeah. Longing is like the best word that I could. Yeah.
It's so funny because
it's off-putting to me.
I think you're not wrong, but you're also not right, because there's a lot of characters who want things the way they were. They romanticize it or whatnot, or maybe they exaggerate based on what's been written because they don't know. But there's also the people who like things the way they are. I think Herschel is in the camp of, I like things the way they are, and there's an opportunity to keep going. And the Dama represents that for him, I think. The way he describes the bridge having been caught as it was about to collapse, and he kind of twists around and he kind of not romanticizes that, but he He's in love with the art.
He does romanticize it.
Well, romance refers to what was, but so I'm thinking of like he's enthralled by it.
Yeah.
About the beauty and the darkness, kind of like the World Beyond vibes. The beauty and the darkness, the twistedness and destruction.
More like he wants that for himself. Like he's
that's kind of what I'm thinking.
And wants to come out stronger in the other end. Which is deeper than a fascination. I don't want to say jealous.
Obsessed?
Jealous isn't the right word either, but
there's like
envies?
a desire. It's a desire. Yeah. I could see it being envy.
Okay.
He envies the bridge, like the concept of the bridge. Mm-hmm. He envies that.
Well, and he sees maybe himself as the bridge.
Wants to be the bridge.
Kind of the vibes I got.
He's manifesting the bridge.
He's manifesting.
I do wonder if this has something to do with the fact that, because he keeps bringing up that Maggie can't let go of the past. So I wonder if it has something to do with that.
That's what I was getting to. Because he keeps accusing his own mother, Maggie, of looking at the past. Is it just because I'm Glenn's kid, my father's kid? And then you go and you're obsessed with Negan. You can't let it go. This old thing. And he sees the Dama, and this is the new thing. This is who I could. This is the Walking Dead universe. Makes it something to be the person.
Which is ironic because she's old.
But with her oldness comes, I don't know, the promise for
wisdom.
But also a promise of a future that is his and that is holy. I feel like in a way, just like you were saying about how you want the old Negan back.
Who said that?
I was saying like that was a pointed comment.
I was saying Bridget was saying
the show was making.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't maybe Herschel going down this path? Because I baked in some of the comic idea of Herschel with the way the show's depicted Herschel Rhee.
I'm not seeing that character at all.
I know, but I've wondered if this is like that desire for the darkness. If they're going to like walk a line with this, like maybe you incorporate some of the things.
Well, what we saw tonight we've seen it before, but they brought it back, the entertainment with the walkers. That is something that comic book Herschel does. Okay.
Well, let's stay here for a second because I just want to close the thought because I just feel like seeing Maggie as a representation of what once was and the Dama is something exciting, new, obsessive. We all want this. But I feel like just like people are digging on like I want the Negan that was with the bat and the threateningness and the maybe not the harem of wives, maybe not that. I don't want that. That seems not a good thing to like, right? Everybody, hashtag me too.
Right.
We don't like it. We don't like that part.
Hashtag me too, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay.
See, I brought it back, Bridget, in the right way. Jeez Louise.
Anyway.
Yeah, that was the right way.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Because I said me too, Electric Boogaloo. You have to, it has to rhyme. But I don't want to bring that back. No, let's not bring it back.
Anyway.
But just like that, in the same fashion, they're kind of maybe even digging at the fans for having this baked in idea of who Herschel is. Because even Herschel's like, I don't want to be who you think I am. I'm not Glenn's kid. He didn't even know his father. Yes. Do you feel threatened, Rachel? Because it was interesting because you even saying it the way that you did was actually kind of cool because it was like, oh, wait, maybe we're bringing in some biases that the audience was bringing about Negan, but we're maybe bringing them into Herschel too. Herschel wants to carve his own path.
I don't know. I'm a big believer of, nature over nurture. And I do think there's a certain amount inherited from your parents and goodness. I'm going to hope that Herschel has the moral compass his dad does.
I want that for him. I really do. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to go the other route. I don't like it.
I'm not saying that it will. What I'm saying is I think it is a path that he wants to carve himself.
Well, and that is, I would say, a characteristic of Glenn as well, right? He was very future driven. He was very much about building something, and he was always looking ahead, where we see Maggie's stuck on the past.
I would like for this version of Herschel, for this to be less desire for wanton destruction. And
it could be destruction if he has an alcohol problem.
Destruction. I don't know why I said it that way. Shut up, Dave. So embarrassed. And more the want for freedom. That's why he's got these rose-colored glasses on about the Dama and stuff, is like the freedom that comes along, because his mother is very overprotective. She's really worried about him. Always. She always has to have an eye on him. As a teenager, you remember what that feels like to have your parents like just up in your business all the time.
Well, Rachel knows intimately well. having one herself.
Both sides.
Sometimes. It was only like when I got in trouble and then suddenly you were up in my business. Otherwise, you didn't care what I was doing. But I could see that feeling really restrictive to a teenager, especially in this world where you have to learn how to protect yourself at such a young age. So the brain development is completely different than the average person.
Kids can fight.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, most kids.
Isn't that another thing? Percy wants the way things were for his kids, his wife, right?
Yeah, some of it to bleed in.
And Narvaez lives in this world where it's like, no, we can use some of the lessons that we picked up along the way and have kids. We can have child labor. Anyway.
Well, or you just view it as everyone's pitching in. Everyone's pitching in, Dave. It's just the way you look at it.
The third carrot and stick. They take Negan to see the Dama, and it's all about, I need you to lead. We need to bring these tribes together, blah, blah. I already told you, I said no. Well, didn't we have this conversation last year when you first caught me? And she offers him a whiskey, and then he says, I'm a gin man myself. Okay, whatever. She gives him this cool gin bottle. She's like listening to him. That's cool. Okay, fine. And he goes, this is too expensive for my taste. He's basically saying, this is her carrot. And then she goes off to the side trying to not blow up at him. And the Croat pitches in. He's like, just think about it, Negan. You could do this and that and the other thing. And you're here, and the New Babylon Federation, you know what they're like, and and if they come in here, they'll take you, and And then Dama comes back, and she goes, yeah, about your family. They're on their way here. So if you want to protect them, you got to protect the city. Essentially, that's the stick.
Do you believe her?
Good question.
That's a great question.
Although she was very specific with the details. Now, it could be that they bumped into the driver who actually did the delivery, and maybe they ended up making it there after all. But it could be one of those things where, like, they know where she is and pick Annie and Joshua up eventually, and maybe not immediately because the actress is cast on the I don't know. Probably not. And this may end up happening like within the course of very few days.
Spoil that. If she does show up, I would love to be surprised by that. I want that to be a complete and utter shock. That would be
me too.
A phenomenal secret to keep.
Time.
Yeah, I do not want to know.
Don't spoil yourselves.
That might actually get me up out of my seat. Okay, two things. First, the Walker fight.
Yes.
I need some clarification because at first I was
confused by that too.
I was like, these dudes like suck at fighting. Like I didn't realize they were even walkers at first.
These
I was
dudes
like, why do they
suck at
fighting? And then I realized they're all like cheering for walkers who are fighting each other. And then I'm like, why are they going after each other and not the people surrounding them?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
Question. Because I don't know the answer to that either, but I can make excuses. But that bothered me on first watch.
All I could think was maybe there was meat strapped to them.
That was all. Okay, I was thinking fresh blood, maybe.
Like, yeah.
But then it's like, how do you get are they sacrificing people to cover these walkers in blood? But again, there's people surrounding them cheering. Why are they not immediately going for? It was very confusing.
I wasn't sure. It was so dark. I couldn't really tell what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Like the scene itself was just dark.
I love The Walking Dead, but there are moments where you're like, what is happening on screen right now?
Turn up the brightness,
it's always been that way where you're like, oh, I got to turn up the brightness. This was one of those scenes where I was like, what is happening? How is he stabbing him? Oh, there's something on his head.
What is that part was pretty cool.
I was like, what's happening? So it was hard to just gauge what was going on. That was all I could think was, is there blood or flesh?
Right. I could not understand why they were going after each other. That's why I thought it was like two drunk dudes fighting. I'm like, they suck at this.
It reminded me of The Governor.
Well, yeah. The fight.
This reminded me of The Governor.
Yeah.
But it was people fighting the walkers.
Pits.
It was, but there was a fighting pit. And that's very much what this reminded me of, because we don't get a ton of this in the TV show. But if you've read the comic books or the novels, really go into detail on this. The fighting pits are very, very, very violent. When Lily and Josh come in to the group and they're trying to become accustomed to Woodbury, this is the most appalling thing to them, is this fighting pit. Everything else seems fairly normal, except for the fact that some of the people are like really mean. They can't really figure out like why they're being so horrible.
What people though? Exactly.
The people in Woodbury.
Oh,
residents.
Okay.
Yeah, like residents. There's just some pretty awful people in Woodbury. it doesn't matter. It's not even the governor. It's like it's tangential characters that don't matter in the long run. They affect the story, but that's really it. The fighting pits are really appalling. Like Lily is like disgusted by its existence and does not understand why people are there, and they have their kids there. They bring their children to watch this stuff happen, and it's gross. This is what that reminded me of, was that like in the novels have these really vivid descriptions of like what's going on, and that's what this scene really reminded me of, was that concept of the masses blowing off pits. Steam with something so brutal, which is part of human history.
Right. And if you think about it, all these warring tribes in New York City, how else would they get together if not for a bloodbath? That isn't them, which is great. They take it out on the walkers instead of them. But the walkers themselves, none of that's in the books. None of that's in TV. The logic is eluding or elusive. So the only thing I could think of was if they do pour flesh blood on the backs of their heads, because it's the only thing I could think of. The killing blow was made to the back of the head.
Yes.
In Fear the Walking Dead, season 6, episode 2, we go through the painful process of the 5 senses of walkers as opposed to people. And the strongest sense is the sense of scent. The irony of which is that the sense of smell is the first thing to go as you get older. Fascinating. But the scent of blood is the first instinct for walkers in terms of feeding or finding food. Blood.
It is baffling to me that you know what episode that's in.
Because we broke it down. And so so you weren't there. It's fine. You know, we should watch it.
Even the breakdowns, I can't. I can't remember like, oh, this was...
It's just what happens when you take notes. It just gets stuck in here somehow.
But I do take notes. It's okay.
Wait, Fear season 6?
Fear the Walking Dead season 6, episode 2.
Sorry,
It's the molasses factory.
Walking Dead.
Do you remember when Victor sacrificed Sanjay?
Yes.
That was how they were able to, because everybody's yelling around. It was like he just cut Sanjay in the leg, and then the walkers all of a sudden turn around. And from this, we learn the 5 senses of walkers, the sense of smell of blood, and the blood is so much, because the sight is the last sense. They can't see very well, but they can sure as hell smell blood. So if they poured blood on the backs of their heads, and they're like, man, I want that blood. And so I just want to get at it. And they're bumping into it because they want to get around it. So that's the only thing I could think of. If they cut somebody and they put some fresh blood, and it was like, oh, okay, let's go at it. And they're yelling. But it really boggled my mind, because I really wish there was more of a storytelling way of showing how this was even possible. That's the closest as I could get, is to actually try to explain it away. And it makes me comfortable.
You can't see anything. If they were showing it with the anticipation that we'd be able to figure it out, I'm sorry, dude, I can't see it. You made the scene so dark, I literally cannot see anything. That's a moment where I would have liked a little bit of exposition. You could give me a little bit there to tell me what's going on.
I mean, they're obviously betting on
clearly
their
but then
walker.
I was like, did each of them contribute a walker? Is this like a BattleBot situation?
Well, it seems like each faction brought their own walker, right? And then whoever won, they walked away with grocery carts full of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. You see them carting off the stuff.
But then there was that extra shot where Kim's like,
Bruegel is his name. That's the Bruegel that they mentioned made the farmer's market, quote unquote.
Oh, that's Bruegel. Okay, that's what I figured. He looked quite
regal,
well dressed. I have to say, he also does soccer mom hand in the theater, which just...
What is soccer mom hand?
So okay, for me it's when you're driving. This is very old people thing to do. When you're driving and your kid's in the front seat, which is now not so much of a thing, and you have to hit the brake suddenly, you hold your arm out.
Yes, he did it. He did it to the person next to them
as they're flamethrowing the audience.
Yeah, when they were doing the flamethrower, he's like aghast.
It's so sweet.
It killed me. I was like, what?
His reactions to Negan initially, that was what killed me. He was like, oh,
he loves Negan.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I was excited. I'm excited for this character.
I'm very excited for these future scenes between the two of them. It's going to be
very mixed, because when Christos is... Let's close the book on the whole arena thing, because of course he goes, money, please, with his hands. And it's to Christos, because Christos is the guy who was with the BattleBots, and it was him and Bruegel who were fighting. They're walkers.
Yes, yeah.
And Bruegel obviously has the big walker, and he lost, which is why when they go back to the Damas for their nightcap, quote unquote, he's the first one to get it, because he's very upset about losing this big bet that he must have placed on this walker pit fight. So Kim Coates refers to his character as a dandy.
Oh Oh yeah, I get that. I could see
Hence his
that.
clothing, his demeanor, and maybe we'll get more of that, I think, in a second. But you get a little bit of it at the end when he's looking at Radio City Music Hall light up. The one thing I want to tell you about that before I forget is he steps out, looks straight ahead, and sees the lights. That is incorrect. St. Patrick's Cathedral is on 50th and...
Oh.
Maps.
No, it's just a logistical thing. It's a reasonable mistake, but it's wrong. So the entrance it could only be this entrance on 50th and just off the corner of 5th Avenue. What he should have done was turn right. So if he turned right, he would have looked to his right, and it would have been 50th and 6th is where Radio City Music Hall is. And that's assuming there's no tree line. The avenues are very long, or at least a quarter mile or something. I'm talking out of school. I don't know exactly, but it's pretty far away. So assuming the trees have all long since rotted away and whatever, he would be able to see that sign, but it would be to his right because Radio City Music Hall is on 50th and 6th Avenue. So looking ahead was the wrong move. Take notice, Dead City. Take notice.
All right. Good to know.
Also, the arena where they were fighting the battle walkers, that is shaky too. I'm going to show you why. There's one thing, it's funny that they call it a farmer's market, and this is the only reason why I'm bringing up this image. The plaza that they're referring to where the battle walkers happens is West 57th Street and 10th Avenue.
I'm really glad you live in New York, Dave, because otherwise we would have no context for any of this.
I don't think I would care either. I would just believe everything
I would just blindly believe what they're telling me, but it's nice to know like the actual construction of it.
Okay, here, you see this? Okay, Croat is pointing down at the map.
Yep.
Yes.
He's pointing to the X. That's 57th and 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
It's an actual farmer's market.
Yeah, West 57th and 10th Avenue. And yes, it literally, they do host a farmer's market in that general vicinity. The problem is when you actually look at that area and you drop yourself into the street view of Google Maps, it's just an intersection. There's no park. Maybe they could walk left or right, but the park isn't big enough, I don't think. I did look. There's another park nearby. It's very, very small. There's no overhang where you can look down and like where Bruegel's going, money, please. There's none of that. So I wish they could have, but it's hard, right? You're trying to find a place where you can do battle bots with walkers and, where are you going to do it? Yeah, I don't know. Like they could have chosen Riverside Park, but the problem is you want to choose a location that's close enough to St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is, like I said, East 50th and 5th Avenue. This is a small walk. You've walked in New York City, Rachel. It's actually quite close when you think about it.
You can cover a lot of ground.
Yeah. Now, with walkers in the way, it might be more difficult. You don't have clear line of sight. Roads might be blocked off. There might be sinkholes everywhere, little traps for the walkers themselves, like we talked about in the first few episodes. Why are there traps for walkers? Now we know traps for walkers because of the methane. It's good to finally say that out loud because we never went back to that. Now you do know that it's actually a literal farmer's market that gets hosted there.
I love that. No, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's like
better for knowing it.
Yeah, a little nod to that green market.
Well, it's the first image that shows up
I love
in
that.
Google Maps. So what's a B and another B word that we can use for that? Battle bloats? Battle...
What?
Yeah.
I'm just riffing now.
Well, hold on.
Like other words for walkers?
Body battle.
Yeah.
Bag of bone battles.
There's a list.
Battle bags of blood?
Bone bag bottle battles.
So battle bag of bones?
Yeah.
Biters.
Biters.
Battle biters. Biter battles.
Which biters
battles.
was the Woodbury name for them, wasn't it?
Biter
yeah,
battles.
I think so. Yeah, that's right. Merle even uses that a couple times too to kind of, I'm a Woodbury person. No,
Yeah.
he would never talk like that.
I'm trying to see. The only other one that starts with a B is
Battle Brugels.
the Balance Brigade. So apparently they're called that at one point. I don't know.
Must have been World Beyond.
Oh, here, AMC put out a list.
Well,
Yeah.
you had a second thing, Rachel.
Biters would be the only thing.
Yeah, Battle biters. Okay.
This seems like a very small and trivial thing, but I think it has deep meaning. And I'm interested to know what you guys think. The significance of Herschel throwing sidearm at the end.
When he kept continually throwing overhand.
Maggie makes a point to tell him to throw overhand, but in the end, he does better and more accurate sidearm.
So in my notes, it says he tried to go overhand, but in the end, he'll be underhanded.
But it was sidearm, not
Waka
underhand.
waka.
I mean, poetic license.
I'm wondering if it's just to further illustrate their differences and the need for him to have a different path.
Well, like conventional wisdom versus do what works.
Yeah. And
carve your own carve with a literal knife your own path.
And she grew up in our world and then had to transition into this world. She's been very successful in this world, but she's also had a lot of loss and a lot of pain. He's just grown up in this world. It's just to illustrate that difference again, to say there's a level of disconnect here that we don't fully understand yet.
Right.
Yeah. I like the idea of him taking his own path and being good at it. Not just, I'm going to do the opposite of what my mom says, but that it's working out in his favor as well.
Do what works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I want it to be positive. I don't want comic book Herschel. I really don't want comic book Herschel.
No. And I think the more we talk, the more
annoying. Like, don't do that. Don't
want him.
Well, especially because he sprung from the loins of a character whom you really love. And so it's hard to kind of see all that sacrifice, all that pain, all that death going to this is how your life turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't know, but I think, I don't know, for me, all of us talking together and even going through my notes and going through this episode, I don't see that. I just see somebody who is in love with being in this world and what it could offer him.
Yeah.
Instead of the old ways, which is like, it's all you know, Mom. I guess that's all you know. But there's other ways of thinking about this.
Maybe this will end up being that he's going to be more like Negan. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying like Negan like we know him before, but like Negan now. Poetic injustice, truly.
Irony, essentially, boiled down. It's probably the reason why he hates him so much, is that you hate in others what you hate in yourself. That sort of situation.
He doesn't really know Negan well enough.
Well, remember they met as when he was a kid.
Yeah, but
at
briefly.
That complex. Yeah. Only had a heart to heart.
Briefly, yeah.
It did enter my mind, though, that what you're saying is on the money, Bridget, because I was thinking, could the Dama need Herschel because she sees something in him similar to Negan? Maybe even a leadership, because you wouldn't expect leadership from Herschel. You don't know Herschel. The Dama is kind of like Negan. First of all, how did Negan manage to overpower or convince all these people to do the Savior's sanctuary thing? Similar to that, because even Christos says it, skinny old white guy telling me what to do, and everybody's laughing because I'm laughing.
He was brutal and he was charismatic.
Okay, and maybe the Dama's the same way, and maybe she sees that in Herschel.
We haven't seen the charisma from the Dama, but based on the infatuation that her followers carry, it has to be there somewhere. Yeah, right. I'm not seeing it.
We know the actress from Ozark, and I can see it. She's just so good. I do want to see more from her in the series, though, because it's been tamped down.
I would like to see a little bit of what happened between her and Herschel so that I can see where this longing comes from.
Oh, isn't it similar to, okay, you can draw a bleak mirror between the Dama and Herschel and Maggie and Herschel because of that time skip. There's undoubtedly so many stories that Maggie and Herschel had on the road and all that stuff. But we also don't have this story between the Dama and Herschel. And we get a little bit, and she does have a keepsake from him, but we don't have that story, not completely. What was it about their conversations that we're missing? And I feel like we'll get both as we go through this. I hope we get both, because that's the key to unlock the fans to actually see Mag. Because I see it, Rachel. She's not much of a hero. She's got a hero complex. She's not likable. And all of these could be true for a lot of people in the fandom. But I think in giving us what happened between that time skip, they started doing it in the bonus episodes of season 10. And you do get a picture of how horrible it was for her, but it wasn't enough. We know that because of the way people are acting now. And I do hope we can get to the root of maybe this villain complex that I think she has, and her reason for keeping everybody safe and sacrificing herself for her child. She says it out loud. We do what we do. I do what I do to make sure that you don't have to do it. I'll take it all on. And I get that to a certain extent. But also, you called it out. You're like, that's not how this should work. Kids can fight.
It should. Yeah.
Can. I didn't say should. You tell that to your son, right? Maggie calls it out too, because she calls out Armstrong and she says, "Where's your wife and kid? Why aren't they being conscripted?"
Yeah.
Oh, that's banality of evil. Yes.
I felt like this was a really strong premiere episode for a season. I don't know how you guys felt about it. I really want to see the next episode.
Absolutely. I don't know
That's
how
how
they're
I
going to
feel
give
about
us
this.
6 episodes of the season if that's all that we're getting.
I know. I'm just happy that we're getting more of the intellectual properties. I just talked with Tahira about this the other day. You know, people like argue over like which one was the best or whatever. And like, I don't care because I love The Walking Dead. So I'm glad that we're getting anything that extends these characters that I love. So it doesn't really matter to me. I don't care which one is the best. It doesn't matter. I like all of them. I like that they're still on. But I am excited for this season. Something about this made me feel like, yeah, I want to watch this. I have to watch it because we're doing a podcast, but I want to watch it.
Well, you don't have to watch it. But to your point, the thing I like the most about this is it would be one thing if we got it and it's great and whatnot, or not great and I don't want to watch it. But what I like about it is it certainly, like the first season, where you're like, how are they going to wrap this up in 6 episodes? They did. And how? And it gave us something to talk about. Look at how much we've already talked about. And I don't even think we scratched the surface. My thought is the fact that they give us something to talk about. We could be making excuses and not talking about much, but there is a lot to talk about. There's history to draw upon that is playing out here. There's resolutions that still, oh, wow. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over again from The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 2. Carol had a lot of unresolved stuff from the end of The Walking Dead. Yes. It looks like that you could go on and you could move on from that point. But honestly, there's so much unresolved stuff, how all her children seem to die. And that drama played out in season 2 a little bit. We get the representation of that in the season 2 finale. I still don't think it's over. I think it's been confronted, but now we've got to exorcise the demons. But here, similar to that, we're bringing in season 9 vibes. We're bringing in the reasons why she left, why her attitude has shifted, why she is way overprotective over Herschel, and it's perfectly reasonable on one level, but it's unreasonable on another level. And I think in the pursuit of figuring that out, we're going to get some answers, some long overdue answers about Maggie, and maybe a path forward to us, I would say most of us, actually having sympathy for her or figuring her out, or maybe connecting with her again after having not been connected since she left the show. That's my hope in bringing in the season 9 vibes. I think they can do it. I just want to see where they go with it. I'm bringing back one dirty word that I don't think you're going to enjoy, but I think one of the biggest takeaways or biggest surprises that I got from this season was the fact that New Babylon Federation took over the bricks. Wasn't that a shocker?
That they forced them into a agreement.
Yeah.
And here's the dirty word: tranquilitas ordinis. The thing you hated hearing when I brought it up and obsessed over.
It's literally written on this poster that's right here.
Really?
In my house to my right.
Is it the Negan Wanted poster?
It is. There's a stamp on it that says New Babylon Federation. It's got like a wheat symbol.
Yeah.
Must be
which is on the sign outside of the bricks too. It's 3 wheat symbols, the center one, which is bigger, and it's encircled.
Oh, interesting. It's 5
in
on
that
here.
One? Oh, okay. Interesting.
It is encircled.
Well, it's interesting. Maybe the 3 wheat symbols means that it's a colony member or whatnot. Colonialism, imperialism. Ooh. I mean, how else are you going to get people to do the dirty work, right? Well, I also wanted to say what I wrote for PDI was post-dead infestation.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Tranquilitas ordinis. We conquer in order to make peace. And progress is a train that doesn't stop.
Can't be stopped. Typically.
This is my thinking, is that you have like an unstoppable force, progress, meeting with an immovable object. And I'm wondering what happens after that, because who is going to win? Typically it would be progress. Yeah. Right? You've got the Luddites over here in Manhattan. Technically, because when the spotlight goes on to Negan, that's a new thing for them. Electricity, that's a new thing for this, let's say, community, but it's not much of one.
Correct. But you could make an argument that it's flipped, though, too, Dave. That New Babylon's holding on to the old, and that Manhattan is the new.
So they're both immovable objects and unstoppable forces.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point. That's supposed to feel fluid. Like either one could be the one that's progress. They're both going to see themselves as the one offering progress.
Well, just like, and again, it goes back to
you're the hero in your own story kind of thing.
That too. Well, I mean, I think the tribes of Manhattan don't see themselves that way. But
I mean, they want to win. They want to be the victors. So even if it's not a hero necessarily, that's just the cliche. But
more so, the definition is more apt for New Babylon. The idea of those who cloak themselves in virtue are often the villains, right? That whole idea. I bring this up only to say the following, because when Benjamin Pierce, the historian guy, was talking about the power lines, and I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, and Narvaez shuts him down. He's just like, don't you have something to do? And then Charlie Bird says, she's just jealous because you're going to have the most important job. Your discoveries and historian writings, they're going to be the thing that's the most productive or the most important. But it's like, no, it's not. It's the methane.
It's giving Althea.
From Fear the Walking Dead?
Yes.
Okay. It's giving Al.
Yeah. This whole, like, it's important to document what's happening for those who come later.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. Everyone keeps dying though, so like it's just not that serious. But
well, I'm not focusing on the Ben part. I'm focusing on the Charlie Bird politician part. It's the idea that, oh, yours is the most important role. Meanwhile, it's the methane. It's the methane.
Oh,
it's all about methane.
Yeah.
Isn't that like this weird parallel between like, oh, we're invading Iraq? It was like, is it about toppling a dictator? It's like, no.
Yeah. It's about justice.
The oil fields. It's about the oil fields.
It's about justice.
Is
not
it justice
really
though? Is it Jolie porn? Is it? Just kidding. JK, everybody. Sorry, I just finished editing the episode and it's releasing in a couple. It's actually releasing in a half hour.
The only other thing I wanted to talk about was Dasha, but
Major Narvaez.
I don't have time to say all the wonderful things I want to say about her.
And we'll probably
I
get
think
more of her
everyone
too.
really feels that way, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited just to see her in something else.
I am too.
I mean, she's done other things, but just for her to be in something else that I love is cool.
The connective tissue between The Walking Dead and Orange is the New Black now is the most exciting part. Like, I'm like, yes, you are part of our world now.
You're in the same universe. Orange is the New Black. It did take place in a New York penitentiary, so maybe.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
There is one thing I really want you to be here for, because in the episode or Insider, there was a funny bit. We go back to the cockroaches and Negan's eating the plate of them. Mm-hmm. And of course, they're made of like chocolate and custard and whatnot. However, not all of them were. Oh, no. And that was because Mikey Satrazemis wanted to play a prank on Jeffrey D. Morgan. He first of all, he goes, can we make one of them more juicy so that when he bites into it, it kind of sprays out? He goes, no, but I can do you one better. I can get you actual cockroaches. And the reason why this actually worked was because, to your point, Bridget, everything is so dark. Jeffrey D. Morgan said it himself. When I'm doing these scenes, I'm practically blind. I need my glasses. There's no glasses in the apocalypse. So he's eating these things and he's like, oh, this is, it's not my favorite, but it's fine. And then he'll bite into a few and he's doing the scene. It's real cooked, properly cooked cockroaches and he's eating them. He's like, yum, yum, yum. And he was like, what the F? And he's like, there's swear words and they're bleeping it out. He's like, these guys, this crew, they just like, they're the worst. They're the worst. And Mikey's like, yeah, I just thought maybe we could make one of them real and get the money shot. So kudos to Mikey, our friend. Half of them, there was a handful of them that were not.
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
There were a handful that were not.
Mikey.
It's very funny.
That were real. Sorry.
That's awesome.
It's holdover from Walking Dead too. Because if you didn't know, the Walking Dead cast used to play pranks on each other very frequently.
Big time. Yeah.
The cast, but now it's
executive producer. It's bleeding into producers.
Executive producer, by the way, Michael Satrazemis, and director of this episode. So how about that? This is great. I love this for him. And also, there's a little bit of a power dynamic here. So Mikey, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do.
You'll eat these cockroaches and you'll like it, and you'll say it's funny later.
That was fantastic.
An article that was written about Jeffrey D. Morgan saying, I'm getting too old to play this role, even though this has been the major thing in my life for I don't know how long. However, people took this meaning to be Jeffrey D. Morgan is exiting the show in season 2. Now, it's a stretch because what he was saying basically is, I think this is going to be the thing I do until I retire. But people are making this a quote to mean he's planning on retiring soon. Something to that effect. Real or not, real or imagined, I'll link to it in our blog at some point when I do the blog. But you decide for yourself, or maybe by the time I post the blog, this season will already be done. He's still on the show for season 3, so which is what we're all assuming probably, unless they do the whole Rick thing. Oh, I said it out loud. Rick being involved with New Babylon. Well,
that's everyone's prediction online.
Oh, really? There you go.
By everyone, I mean the loudest dude. Anyway, It's fine.
Which was what they said about every spinoff. The dead,
correct, 100%.
Daryl Dixon.
You've been wrong before. You're going to be wrong again.
Tales of the Walking Dead. You can only throw so much spaghetti at the wall until you eventually have to clean it up. So, that spaghetti strand and a stack of spaghetti strands.
It's just so that they can yell
punk.
if they were right the whole time later.
Right. And if you think we're a plate of cockroaches that you just didn't think you would enjoy, but you knew you'd enjoy later, head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkydead and leave us 5 stars and a cockroach. It's all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us what you think we might have missed. We know we miss a bunch of things, but remember to tell us after every single episode. It really, really makes a difference. I keep telling you this. You don't do it. Now I'm going to have to fight you. I love biter bots or biter
battles.
Biter battles. I don't know. But if you really like what you've heard and you want to enter the studio with us in the chat for free, just follow us on Ko-fi or Patreon. We update our schedules. You get the notifications. You can join in the chat, in the studio, real-time chat with us for free. Take your support further. Tip us. You can get this unedited episode recording, as well as my pre-squawk insights, forever Discord access, as well as a whole host of other perks. Join us on either Ko-fi or Patreon for as little as $4 a month, and you can get these perks in perpetuity, as well as a whole host of other perks. Join the Whisper Survivors and Grade M tier, and you will get a free classic t-shirt upon signing up. Join the Survivors and Grade M tier, and you can show up in these episode breakdowns alongside us, lending us your thoughts with us. And if you happen to join the Grade M tier, the greatest-ish tier, you can join our core channel on our Discord server and be involved in our behind-the-scenes discussions, our production calls, the things that we like to do behind the scenes that we can't share with everybody. And you can help shape the course of this show as a junior producer. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by
me, CosmoMom09.
And Bridget. You can find me at ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Dead City. We're glad the series is back, and we are back. Back in the New York
groove.
Back in the New York groove. And if you happen to download my pre-squawk insights, I do go into why this song by Ace Frehley, which is originally done by Hello in 1975. Kind of cool. It's about opportunity. It's about having fun. They talk about sinisterness. Anyway, that's it.
The Hello
everybody.
version is better. I'm going to say it.
But the lyrics on this one is actually very apt for this series. So take care, everybody. We'll see you real soon. Have a good one, and we'll see you in the second episode. And hey, join our live streams when we talk about The Last of Us, the 4th episode, which is premiering in just a half an hour. It's 8:30 p.m. on a Sunday right now. Join us on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern US time, as we talk about The Last of Us. Support the show, man. Like our videos and comment on them, share our clips. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of yet another episode of Squawking Dead. This one, the return of The Walking Dead Dead City, its sophomore season premiere, titled Power Equals Power. I just want to let you know that we are entering a new season of Evil. It's not quite 3 episodes a week, but between the end of Dark Winds and just getting it out in time before Dead City, and now Dead City and The Last of Us overlapping, and us going to the camp on Memorial Day weekend while Dead City is running, we've got our work cut out for us. So it's a good opportunity to remind everybody to consider joining a membership on either Patreon or Ko-fi. It really, really helps us out. I've been personally kicking myself into overdrive, really ramping up the speed of our development when it comes to editing. I hope you still enjoyed it. I think the quality is still the same. It's just I've cut out a lot less than I normally would in terms of grammatical mistakes, flubs, things of that nature. And if you do prefer it, I think we could really use your input in a rating or comment on either Spotify, using ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead to rate us on the platform of your choice. Anything you can tell us will help us refine what we do, cut out things that we over accentuate in order to speed up the production so you can listen to the episodes that you love sooner. And as always, we'd like to thank our Great M survivors and Whisper tier members in that order. It's a little perk that they receive when they join a membership tier, and these are they. Starting with a Great M tier, we have at Real Ryan GM on Instagram and X. Moving on to the survivors tier, we have Douglas Atherton at Walking Dead Artist 2 on Instagram. In the Whispers tier, we have at Kim.Rowley 1 on Facebook. I am definitely glad that The Walking Dead Dead City is back. I'm really interested in seeing if they follow through on what I've been saying are season 9 vibes and maybe reconnecting the fans with Maggie again. All these overlapping narratives calling back to previous episodes of The Walking Dead. It's like we're reliving history and yet we're moving on. Look at that. I'm even talking about the episode now at the outro. They caught me. One last thing to remind you guys, we do have Dead City merch in our merch store that we released during the first season. I think it's just as applicable for the second season, though I think we might add a art design for this year. You can either find links in the description of the YouTube video, or you can head on over to squawkingdead.com, tap the main menu in the top left, and choose buy merch. Check it out. Let us know what you think. And one more reminder, we will be going live for every episode of The Last of Us. It should be Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern US time. Join us in the chat as we go live. The episode will come out on podcast platforms hopefully sooner than it has been the last few weeks. Like I said, we're trying to get these episodes out a lot sooner. We are going to be sacrificing a little bit of quality, not audio quality, but some of the words and stuff and flubs might stick around. And again, let us know what you think. If you're still enjoying it, it really helps to know, because it's hard to see this podcast from the inside. Either way, we thank you for making it this far, listening to my voice at the end of every podcast, and I hope you do know that we, you, me, everybody, are Squawking Dead.